Emma, a 9-year-old girl, sat alone in the corner of the orphanage, clutching a faded photograph of her parents. Silent tears slid down her cheeks as she overheard that Leonardo DiCaprio would be visiting the city that night. Something stirred deep inside her, a determination that, once set in motion, would forever alter both her life and his. Yet no one could have predicted what would happen after their paths crossed, leaving everyone on edge. Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from. And if you love tales like this, hit subscribe. Tomorrow, we have another special story lined up for you. At just 9 years old, Emma bore a pain that many adults could scarcely imagine. Since the tragic loss of her parents, an emptiness had settled in her heart, a persistent ache that no act of kindness could soothe. Days at the foster home drifted by in a gray blur, joyless, purposeless. Only 2 years earlier, her life had been filled with warmth, family game nights, laughter echoing through her home, movies that became cherished rituals. But everything changed on that fateful day. Emma could still see the red headlights speeding toward them, hear her mother's terrified scream, and then silence. When she awoke in a hospital bed, she discovered she was utterly alone. Her parents had not survived. That revelation shattered something inside her. Since then, the foster home's walls had felt cold and unwelcoming, the other children indifferent, and even the kindest caregivers unable to grasp the depth of her sorrow. "Why am I here?" she whispered into the night, questioning her survival. "If they're gone, why wasn't I?" Mornings were the hardest. Dragging herself from bed felt like lifting a mountain. She carried a crushing guilt, convinced that if she hadn't coaxed her parents to stop for ice cream that evening, the accident might never have occurred. These torturous thoughts haunted her under the oppressive darkness of her small room. Clutching the only tangible link to her past, a worn snapshot of her family smiling in a sunlit park, she let herself weep. Yet within that grief flickered a fragile ember of hope. It glowed faintly in her memories of family movie nights, especially the times they watched Leonardo DiCaprio's films. His movies had been more than mere entertainment. They were her anchor in a storm of loss. Her father would imitate fight scenes clumsily, collapsing into laughter. Her mother would giggle, marveling at Leo's charm. These moments embodied the love and joy that had vanished from Emma's world. One afternoon, while tidying the common room, she overheard 2 caregivers whispering. Their words made her heart pound. "Did you hear? Leonardo DiCaprio's appearing in town this weekend." Emma froze, barely daring to breathe. A chance, perhaps her only chance, to draw closer to the memories of her parents. She gripped the photo of her family and raced to Mrs. Thompson, the head caregiver, pouring out her pleading words. Seeing Leo, even for a moment, would mean everything. But Mrs. Thompson shook her head, sorrow in her eyes. "Emma, I understand how much this means to you, but the rules are clear. We can't leave the orphanage like that." Emma's tears welled up as she begged, promising to behave, vowing she'd never ask for anything so important again. Yet the answer remained the same. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. It's just not possible." That midnight, Emma's resolve solidified. Heart pounding, she crept from her bed, careful not to wake the other children. The hallway was silent, lit only by the pale glow of a single bulb. She pressed the photograph of her family to her chest and slid open the window. A rush of cool night air greeted her as she lowered herself to the ground, scraped knees forgotten in her urgency. The city streets felt impossibly vast, yet Emma moved with swift purpose. Every pounding of her small feet on the pavement echoed the frantic drum of her thoughts. "I have to see him. I must." Neon signs flickered overhead, casting distorted shadows that danced at the edges of her vision. Clutching her treasured snapshot, she whispered, "For you, for us." Determination guided her steps through winding alleys and past closed storefronts, until distant cheers and music signaled the venue's location. When Emma arrived, she found a sea of bodies gathered before a makeshift stage. Towering adults jostled for position, while security barriers separated fans from the empty platform. She wove through the crowd, every inch forward won by sheer will. At the barrier, she looked up at the host's microphone. "We regret to announce that Leonardo DiCaprio will not be attending tonight's event." The disappointment in his voice cut through Emma like ice. Around her, groans of frustration rippled through the audience. Emma's lip trembled. She pressed her forehead against the metal rail, tears glinting in her eyelashes. "No, no!" This can't be happening. Her world narrowed to that single announcement. She felt as though the fragile hope she'd carried all these months had shattered. With a sob, she turned and fled, shoulders shaking. Under the dim glow of a street lamp, she collapsed to her knees, clutching the photo to her heart, lamenting that her one chance had slipped away. But then, a flicker at the edge of her vision, a figure in a dark cap weaving through the departing crowd, moving with calm assurance. Something in his bearing made Emma's breath catch. Could it be? Summoning every ounce of courage, she leapt to her feet and darted forward. "Leonardo!" she cried, voice cracking with hope and disbelief. He halted, his body turning slowly. Under the brim of his cap, she saw familiar eyes, warm, kind, unmistakable. He knelt to meet her at eye level. "Emma?" he whispered gently, concern furrowing his brow. She nodded so hard it nearly made her dizzy. I had to find you," she stammered, holding out the photo. "Your movies. They were all I had left of my family." His gaze softened as he took the picture, studying the tiny faces smiling in the sunlight. "You were brave to come," Leonardo said, returning the photograph. "I'm glad you did." He offered his hand, and Emma placed her trembling fingers in his. Though the crowd had thinned, a hush fell around them, two souls connected by something deeper than words. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Emma laughed, a soft, relieved sound that surprised even her. She realized that in this stranger's kindness, she had rediscovered something she thought lost forever: the warmth of human compassion. As they stood together under the night sky, she no longer felt invisible. In Leonardo's gentle presence, she sensed a new chapter beginning. In the days that followed, Emma found herself swept into a whirlwind of unexpected kindness. Leonardo arranged for her to attend a private screening of his latest film, held in a cozy downtown cinema. She arrived hand in hand with Mrs. Thompson, her heart fluttering with both excitement and nerves. As the lights dimmed and the first frame glimmered on the screen, Emma realized she was surrounded by warmth and support, elements she thought were forever lost. After the credits rolled, Leonardo appeared on stage to thunderous applause. He paused, scanning the crowd until his gaze settled on Emma. With a gentle smile, he invited her forward. The room hushed as Emma stepped into the spotlight, clutching her photograph. Leonardo spoke softly into the microphone. "This story belongs to Emma and to every child who's ever felt alone. Tonight, we honor her courage." He handed Emma a single red rose as she beamed, the entire audience rising to their feet in ovation. That night, Emma slept for the first time without nightmares. The photograph lay safely on her bedside table, no longer a token of sorrow, but a symbol of resilience. Over the next weeks, local news outlets picked up her story, painting a portrait of hope born from tragedy. Mrs. Thompson received calls from compassionate families eager to offer Emma a permanent home, moved by the bond she shared with Leonardo and her unwavering spirit. Emma's first weekend with her new family was filled with simple joys: morning pancakes, backyard games, and cozy movie nights. Leonardo even sent a handwritten note, enclosed with 2 tickets to visit the film set. "For our next adventure," he wrote, "whenever you're ready." Emma traced the looping letters with delight, her heart swelling with the promise of future possibilities. Months later, Emma stood on a stage of a different sort, a small podium at her new school's auditorium. She was chosen to speak at the annual Overcome Assembly, sharing her journey with fellow students. With practiced composure, she held up her photograph. "This was my world," she said, voice steady, "until I learned that hope can find you, even in the darkest moments." The audience listened, riveted by her honesty and grace. Leonardo watched from the front row, pride shining in his eyes. After her speech, he joined her backstage and wrapped her in a brotherly embrace. "You inspire me, Emma," he whispered. "Never stop telling your story." Emma smiled, realizing her tale had transcended pain. It had become a beacon. On the anniversary of her parents' accident, Emma visited the park where the photo was taken. She laid fresh flowers beneath the old oak tree where they once picnicked. Looking up, she murmured, "Thank you for guiding me here." As autumn leaves swirled around her, Emma felt a serene closeness, knowing love endures beyond loss. And so, Emma's life unfolded anew, one marked not by absence, but by connection. She pursued art, painting scenes of hope that later hung in local galleries. Leo's visits became treasured traditions, each one reinforcing that kindness can change destinies. Through it all, Emma carried with her a lesson born from grief and courage alike, that even a single act of compassion can illuminate an infinite horizon.